So my name is Rams Modiri. I'm a guitar player, singer-songwriter, and producer. Originally from New York, live in California, and yeah, I play in a group called TGX, and all of us come from playing different styles of music, acoustic music. I come from playing rock and jazz and technical music. I got the bug for electronic music a few years back just because I wanted to expand my horizon, and I just got really into these new sounds. And I was looking for something that would bridge that gap from a guitar player going into an electronic music world. And up until now, no one had a good answer for me. I'm a guitarist first, right? So I started playing guitar, and later on in life, after playing jazz, playing fusion, and playing rock and technical music, I got into playing electronic music and writing songs. And so something like this is actually something that appeals to me and a lot of the demographic of the guitar community, because for the most part, it's pretty much been reserved for pianists and people who are really savvy with the computer. So electronic musicians who are used to typing in MIDI notes, and pianists using MIDI controllers. So since I was a kid, I've had every version of this instrument that you can imagine. My first teacher gave me, or one of my first teachers gave me his Casio 80s MIDI guitar that worked absolutely terribly. I've had an instrument called an Artiphone. I've had an instrument that looks like a game controller called a U-Rock guitar. I've used a Fishman triple play. I've used the MIDI apps. And every one of these instruments has almost completely fallen short of the mark of what we're looking for in something that will do the job of making our guitar language turn into MIDI information. And I think this is the first step in the right direction towards something that will fill that role. Do I think it's perfect? We'll get into it later, but I think that this is going to be what creates that future that we're all looking for, where guitar players and pianists and, drum pad people are playing in a room and they're all jamming on their synths and making cool music, kind of like, the way we think about how music used to be made, where a lot of people were playing live in a room. And yeah, so I'm really excited about this. So first I'll go over the pros of this instrument and start off in a positive place, okay? One of the first things that I commend this company for doing is solving a big problem, which is one of the biggest issues with a MIDI guitar, which is a problem that you either have a really junky guitar with a basic MIDI implementation that barely ever works and is laggy, or B, you get some weird looking toy that doesn't play anything like a guitar and for the most part have mostly been performing very badly. And this actually is totally a respectable instrument. It's super portable. I think that the pickups could be improved upon a little bit, but honestly, that's something that you can swap out yourself. And I think for the price point, it's totally fine. Like, this instrument comes at, I think, about $700-800. If you were to get a Fishman MIDI pickup and install it on your guitar, you would spend $300 on that. You wouldn't be able to plug it into any synths. You'd have to use their really laggy, junky app. And if you wanted to control it without a computer, you would have to get the foot controller. And the foot controller is a few $100s itself. You're already running really close to the cost of this, and this comes with a guitar. The playability of this guitar is great. The locking system is, it's an adjustment thing, but it's totally fine. I noticed the one thing is that when you have the MIDI pickup on, a little bit of hum comes into the pickups, but it's really not that big of a deal. I think most people who are looking at this instrument are going to be people who already have good guitars. You're not going to fill that void generally with a MIDI guitar. I want to bring this thing to a gig and be able to have good guitar tone and be able to unlock all the doors that my keyboard friends have been able to do for years and not have to translate my language into another instrument, right? Because whether we like it or not, like, instruments are a language, and this is my first language. I don't want to start writing on my second language. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really make much sense. So this, for the price point, is great. It's small. It's portable. It has a little like pick holder thing, which actually I think is adorable and kind of awesome. And yeah, I totally vouch for this thing as a guitar. I haven't had many problems with it. So the next thing I really like about this instrument is actually the I/O on it. And this is something that I thought the Fishman got so wrong, and a bunch of other instruments have gotten so wrong, and the Roland system, all of them. And basically, it's so simple. It's a USB-C plug-in to charge. It has Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth, it sometimes can be iffy, but it's not bad. It's actually starting in a great place. And in a guitar, so like I can just go to a synth shop and plug the MIDI out of this and plug right into a synth, so I'm not totally lost without a computer. If I want to play the sounds in my computer or someone else's computer, I can just plug in the USB-C, and it works great. The app that they have to control the device on your computer is pretty good. It can be expanded upon, but it's super mobile, super awesome, and it connects really well. VST that it comes with has like pretty decent sounds and makes the actual instrument way more accurate. It's still pretty accurate without the plugin, which makes it awesome. So if I go to my friend's house and play with their computer and they don't have my plugins, I can still do a lot with this thing. I can plug it in and I can really have a great time. Like even the bending, a lot of the things really translate. And that's something I really liked about this thing, is that when I got the Artiphone, which I love, and I got the Urock guitar and some of these other instruments, I had to do a lot of tinkering to make it work. And musicians don't like to tinker. We want to play, and we want to play with the sound. That's what, nobody builds their guitar before they play it. We just play it. And I think that they actually did a really good job on that, because for the most part, I plugged into the instrument and I was making tracks and jamming with my drummer who plays pads and my synth player friend who plays keys, and was having a great time, like pretty much instantaneously. So that's awesome. So another thing that I really like about it is that it's pretty versatile as one of these instruments. I think that, I'm in a group where we make a lot of like electronic music, but we all come from like an instrumentalist background. We all have different playing styles. So I play with the pick a lot, and then I also play fingerstyle a lot because like I come from like classical playing, and it doesn't have problems picking that up, and it doesn't have problems. Our other guitar player is like, he basically taps, like that's his vibe, and it can sit between both of us just fine. I don't have to open up the app and be changing the preset to make it work with his playing style or my playing style. It's pretty much universally the same, which is what you'd expect from a guitar. If we go to Guitar Center and I take a guitar and I start playing my way, and then I hand it to my friend who likes to play tap or play legato, he shouldn't not be able to play it. It should mostly act the same way, because it is a guitar. It's one instrument, even if you're playing in different ways. And I think this does a decent job of picking up the nuances of different playing styles and coming out of the box with like mappings to playing harder and softer and palm muting and different things like that. I was noticing that even not using their app, synths that I like to use were interacting with it in a pleasant way. And I thought that was awesome. Obviously, this thing is great. It's kind of a new thing in its tier, so there's going to be cons, and I'll go into those right now. So basically, the first con of this instrument is the lack of any kind of modes, in particular like a velocity off mode on the instrument, right? Velocity off or turning off MPE on the instrument would have been really good, because all the MIDI guitar instruments I've ever played, when they mess up in a particular way, which is like the note will lag and it'll hang over, right? And that's like a nightmare if you're playing live. You just have a ringing note, and you have to like turn on and off your synth to make that not happen. I've never seen this happen with keyboards or anything else. And I noticed that when I turn off the MPE, that happens a lot less. And I think of that being a futuristic thing that a lot of people are not on yet. For safety reasons, you should be able to just turn it on and off, because if I plug into a synthesizer, I don't want to have to open up an app to make it not be glitchy. Things that could be improved upon. One is velocity off mode. and just the ability to be able to get to a couple presets like quickly on it. But really, even a velocity off mode and an MPE off mode would be a great addition because two things. I owned a U-Rock guitar, and one thing I liked about the U-Rock guitar, even though it wasn't like, the playing style was close to a guitar, but it wasn't really a guitar, is the tap mode. And this is how a lot of people use the Artiphone in the same way, and just tapping on the grid. And there's a couple reasons why that's awesome. One is that, you don't need velocity for a lot of these synth sounds to really work. A lot of them you don't want velocity. And it's a simple way of playing that makes it super easy to play, but also less prone to glitches and hangover notes. I notice that whenever I have it on these modes, I tend to keep them on these modes because I'm not worried about me playing an open string and having something crazy happen, or bending and having something weird happen. Like when you have it on an all velocity tap mode, it just, for some reason, it just pans out really well. So that would have been a nice feature to add. Maybe that can be added in an update or something like that. But a velocity off mode would have been great. Another thing I think would have been really cool and expanded upon is different ways of like controlling the sound through the instrument. And this is something that I thought the Artiphone actually got right, which was, on the instrument right now, it's all controlled through playing. But if you ever look at a controller, any controller, whether it be pads, whether it be keyboard, they all have a bunch of knobs on it and faders on them so that you can control the sound, which is a big part of playing electronic music, is controlling the sound. And there's ways that this could actually pull those things off with gestures and different things like that, and really expand on the MPE thing. And one of the things that I thought the Artiphone did really cool was is having modulation wheel inside of an accelerometer on the instrument. And basically what that means is as you play, your gesture goes this way, and you can actually control the sound. And that I thought was extremely useful. And something like this I think would really benefit on maybe on a future version. Another one I think would be cool would be having like one or two extra knobs and just have them be dead MIDI knobs. Like they don't need to control anything on the guitar. Like have them be one auto map to a filter, one auto map to a volume. And those are like things you'd expect to see on any synth. So that makes it way more like a hardware integration. You just start playing and you're like, oh, I want to darken the sound, or oh, I want the volume to go up, or maybe maybe you could change it to the attack, something like that. You have a push-pull system on the pickup. You could even make it switch like that and have it even be a clean interface. But I think that different ways of controlling the sound are going to be the thing that makes this not just like a MIDI guitar, but like a real thing to use over a keyboard live, other than just you play guitar. You know what I mean? You want different ways to interact with the sound and interact with the audience and have fun. And I think those things would be really cool. Another thing I think might be another way you could do it would be maybe have like a strip here, like a sensor or something like that that can feel where your wrist is, almost like a palm mute. So you're turning like the palm mute into a gesture, and that could control the filter. There's a lot of great directions this instrument can go from. And I think that, this is a great point A, but the next one, you could do a lot of great things that would really change the game on what a MIDI guitar could be, which this already has, but even farther. The next thing that could be improved on, or criticism, is the sounds in the app are totally respectable, and they're fine, and they're good, and I like them, but they could be a little bit better. And it's actually not a deal breaker because the sounds, the way that this thing works with other synthesizers inside it, like Diva and Serum and household synthesizers, it actually works really well. So it's totally not a deal breaker. But and it's a lot better than something like the Fishman sounds or the Artiphone sounds inside the app. It's like they're totally good sounds, but they could be a little bit better, and I think just the app could be expanded upon, make it so that you can really get in there and like store presets or little things like that. And yeah. So, and then another thing I wish that they had added on this instrument. So like some guitars will have like a kill switch, and kill switches are kind of, it's a novelty thing for guitar players. But a kill button for MIDI on a MIDI guitar would be extremely useful, because like lagged out and overhanging notes happen more in the MIDI guitar world than anything else. And though this has them less than almost any MIDI guitar I've ever played, it still gets them sometimes. And as we're cleaning out this process, and as we're using MPE and these technologies that may be foreign to other synth types, you don't want to be playing something on stage that could just start randomly ringing and you have to pause your computer. It's really scary, actually. So having something that just shuts the MIDI function on it down, like kills all MIDI signal out of the instrument, could be a get out of jail card for something like this in case, something bad happens on stage. And yeah, I think that would be a really useful feature on a future model. And the last thing I think that could be improved on, I think the IO is really great, like I said, but I think that like having one more jack in here, an 1/8" jack, would have been really, really good. Just so that when you plug in an Artiphone, for instance, and I keep talking about them because they made a great product too. It's a different product. It's very much not a guitar, but they got certain things right, which is plugging in your instrument into your phone, or plugging your instrument into your laptop, and being able to use this as an output and use it as almost like an output interface. So if you just show up with your laptop or your iPad, you can plug right from house from your instrument. That, it's just a little thing, or you can plug your headphones right into it. It just makes it really portable and really nice, and I think it's a good function for most instruments in the future. You're starting to see things like Machine Plus and like the Akai Force and MPC Live, where it's like instruments are kind of becoming more expected to house the output of the sound, so you don't have to bring all this stuff for one thing. I could just show up with a guitar and and a laptop and just plug it in and go straight into the house as if this was the instrument. And I think that would be a cool thing to add, and it would be small. It doesn't have to be a crazy sounding thing. It just a single output. Nothing insane. Another missed opportunity, I think, would be some sort of MIDI pitch wheel system, like a pseudo whammy bar that kind of does like that sort of dive bomby kind of effect. Because you hear a lot of that stuff in EDM and like synth music, and you can use your micro bends for when you're bending, the 12th fret or the 15th fret, the thing that you bend on the fretboard. But you can also have like octave jumps and things like that via a whammy bar that doesn't actually push on the bridge, but just has like a range. And I think that would be useful. And it seems like a lot of the issues that you get with different like synths and different things having problems with the instrument come from pitch bending and recognition. So I think that's a really clean way that like any synth would understand. Like the U-Rock had that, and it just never messed up on pitch bending. It was like so easy to just go down a third or anything like that and just use the wheel. And I think for this kind of instrument, having a couple ways, I mean, people use pitch bends and then people bend regular all the time. There's different times for different things. So I think that's something that would be a cool thing for a future update. Okay, so my closing thoughts on the Jamstik. I think that if you're looking for something that you don't want to have to tinker with and don't want to have to worry about at all completely, like probably don't even think about a MIDI guitar just yet. Because even though this comes closer than all of those things, it still has rooms to be improved upon. If I'm going to plug in my MIDI keyboard, if I'm going to plug in this, and I'm going to make a bet on one of them making a mistake, I know it's going to be this, or any MIDI guitar. And I can't even remember the last time a MIDI keyboard has misfired or done anything like that. And I think it's a growing pain of the technology, and we are just there. But if you have your heart set on a MIDI guitar and playing in notation programs and making, cool music inside of a computer with new sounds, or if you're thinking about it just because you want to use something live, I actually think that this is the best thing out there. And I totally stand behind it. Like, I plan on using it on stage. I think it's totally usable, and I'm excited. I've met the guys from the company. I worked for another MIDI guitar company at one point, just doing demos, and I was talking to them, and they seemed like they really had their head on straight on what the market needs and what this instrument should be, and were really excited about it. And I think that they're going to do a good job of expanding upon all these ideas, and the next one of these will be even better. I'm sure this will be updated and become the thing that people use. So yeah, if you're a guitar player looking into something like this and you make electronic music, I say for sure look into this. This is definitely where it's at. And one more like criticism of it is, even though I would say it tracks a lot better than most of the other things out there, it's still kind of temperamental, and it needs to be updated and needs to be taken care of by the company. We just did this demo, and it was having trouble hanging notes. It was having trouble doing certain things, and so I tuned it, and it worked well. It was working okay, but I also was noticing it was working way worse
using a program like Bitwig, which I don't usually use a lot, but it has MPE, and technically that should make it work really well with the instrument. But it was working a lot better in Ableton using or even my hardware synth Force. Like, it was just having a way easier time because I'd set it up for that. So for a user who's gonna buy this, you just gotta really remember it's not a set and forget system. Like, you really got to go in there and check if it works with your thing, and kind of as far as right now goes, because it is a little temperamental, keep it in that state. Don't be messing with it with other stuff, because once you mess it with other stuff, it's gonna, it might work in Bitwig, and then on your hardware stuff, it might not work as well. So that's one thing you can keep in mind. Even though it is pretty good, it is a little temperamental. It's not as consistent as it needs to be, and I think it needs to be updated. And then I was noticing certain things like pick noise and different things like that when I was using Bitwig, or even the Jamstik app, firing off weird notes and getting certain things wrong, but getting everything right on the hardware. And then I had to go into the app and change the settings on it. So these are just things to keep in mind. And yeah, it's just going to be a trial by fire, but it's definitely a way less rocky road, and I think it's pretty promising. So yeah.